Which recruiting class has been Kirby Smart's best since he's been at Georgia? There's been a lot of them so far. It seems like each and every year he's got Georgia signing a top 3 class, sometimes a number 1 ranked class, and he's on his way to signing another one in 2023. But which one has been his best? I want to start with the 2018 class. The consensus number 1 class in the country. And if you look at it, you probably break that one in half and say half of them ended up transferring and the other half end up being really, really good players at Georgia. The 2018 class produced 3 first-round picks in Quay Walker, Devonta Wyatt, and Jordan Davis. They've had 12 NFL draft picks total, and there's a couple more still on the team that I think could be drafted too. So 12 NFL picks, 3 first-rounders out of that group. Azeez Ojulari was in that class. He was drafted. Tyson Campbell, Channing Tindall, Trey Hill, James Cook, Zamir White, Jamari Saylor, Jake Camarda, and John Fitzpatrick, all from that top-ranked class in 2018, and all have been picked out of the transfers, right? Of course, the jewel of the class, Justin Fields. We saw how good he was for Ohio State, but did sign with Georgia. One of the big reasons that they had the number 1 class was because he was in it. He transferred. Cade Mays, 5-star transfer. Brenton Cox, 5-star transfer. Luke Ford transferred. Linebacker Otis Reese transferred. Tommy Bush transferred. Devod Wilson transferred. Owen Condon transferred. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 guys from their top-ranked class transferred, and you could still make the case that this was one of the best classes in Georgia football history. You still have current players like Chris Smith, who could be drafted, Kyrus Jackson, who could be drafted, and Warren Erickson as well. So overall, an outstanding haul. And looking back on it, yes, there was a reason why it was the number 1 recruiting class in the country. Moving along, 2017 was pretty good, but looking back on it, actually not so much. They did have 3 first-rounders in that class, and Andrew Thomas, Eric Stokes, and Isaiah Wilson. 9 NFL draft picks total. You had DeAndre Swift in that class, Richard LeCount, Jake Fromm, Mark Webb, Monty Rice, and Justin Schaefer. So a solid amount. If you get 9 guys in a recruiting class that get drafted, 3 of them in the first round, you did pretty good. But they had a lot of transfers as well, even more than 2018. Matt Landers transferred. Well, these are guys who either transferred or did not get picked in the draft after their career was over. Akil Crumpton, Latavius Burney, Amir Speed, Trey Blunt, Walter Grant, DeMarcus Hayes, Nate McBride, Malik Herring, Trey Bishop. Is that it? No, it's not. Jaden Hunter, Jeremiah Holloman, Notori Johnson. Guys who really did not make a giant impact at Georgia and either had to go somewhere else or just didn't get picked after playing their whole career. So that's a lot of guys who did not really develop the way maybe we thought they did when that class was completed back in the day. William Poole and Robert Beal are guys still on the roster from that class, which is crazy to really think about. But solid group overall, but it's not nearly, as productive as the 2018 class was, which is, by my standards, the crown jewel, that, class that Kirby brought in. We'll see. It's too early to tell on the 2021 class and still the 2020 class, both very, very good. But right now, I would say that the 2018 class is, far and beyond the best. 2019 is pretty good as well. So far, a lot of those guys are still on campus, but Trayvon Walker, number 1 overall pick, was in that class, and Lewis Scenes. You've got 2 first-rounders, guys who were 3 and out and went to the, NFL draft and were first-round, selections. That's as good as you can do. If you're a 3 and out first-round pick, that's exactly what guys are hoping for. They've also had 2 more NFL picks in George Pickens and Nakobe Dean, 2 5-stars from that class. So in 2019, those 5-stars and high 4-stars that they got, they turned into something. They were not bust at all. They were a big deal. Of course, you've got guys, Nolan Smith is still on campus. He'll be an NFL draft pick, maybe a first-rounder. Don Blaylock, if he can stay healthy, he's going to get drafted, and I think Kenny McIntosh is going to be drafted as well. A few transfers already from that class as well. Clay Webb, Tyreek Stevenson, Jermaine Johnson, Micaiah Tongue, Dwan Mathis, Timon Mitchell. So you're going to get a solid amount of transfers at Georgia from each class because it's Darwinism, right, at Georgia right now. If you're not any good, you're not going to play, and you're going to have to go somewhere else. The best of the best are the ones who see the field, and more often than not, occasionally you've got some 3-stars, but mostly it is those 5-stars and high 4-star guys that were highly ranked for a reason. They come in and, do an excellent job. So, 2019 class still, the verdict's still out there, but Otherwise, I mean, that's an outstanding group. Probably the second best recruiting class that we can go back and look at that Kirby Smart has signed. Moving on to 2020, a lot of guys who have played, really well so far and kind of been multi-year starters. Obviously, Jalen Carter, probably the best player from that class. Keely Ringo, right behind him, has already made his mark in Georgia Bulldog history. Broderick Jones is a guy who I think could be a first-round pick if he dominates at left tackle like a lot of people think he could. Darnell Washington has played, hasn't caught a ton of passes, but I expect him to play again a good bit as a junior. Cedric Van Pran at center, multi-year starter. He's going to get drafted, maybe a second or first rounder. He is very, very good. Ladd McConkey, one of the lower ranked guys in that 2020 class, has already made a big impact as a receiver, and I think he could be one of the leading receivers again for them in 2022. A few transfers already. Darren Branch transferred, Jermaine Burton transferred, Jalen Kimber transferred to Florida, Major Burns transferred to LSU. So a few scattered transfers in there already, but that group is still, one to keep an eye on. Still very good group. I think it was number 2 or number 3, in the country at the time. But you see why. These guys are really, really good. And I think this upcoming year, we'll see a lot of those guys who are kind of waiting their turns, have been kind of bench role players, start to emerge, especially on defense. There's a lot of hungry guys from that 2020 class who are looking to make their mark this fall. His first class, 2016, at the time was really, really good, right? Remember Jacob Beeson, Isaac Nada. There were a few 5-stars in there. The only 2 guys who have really made a significant impact in the NFL is Mecole Hardman and Solomon Kindley, I think is starting for the Dolphins right now. Everyone else, not so much. So going back and look at those guys, I mean, it was a great class at the time, and Kirby needed to get guys like Mecole Hardman and hold on to Jacob Eason, who was flirting with Florida a little bit at the time. But as it turned out, they were big in, that 2017 season and 2018 season, obviously, but didn't really turn out as well as, the next 2 classes did in 2017 and 2018, which, just turned out to be a monster of a class. So 2016 was good, but really not so much. Now that, we go back and look at a lot of those guys really did not make that much of an impact or transferred. Again, 2021, still early to tell, but Brock Bowers, A.D. Mitchell, guys who made an immediate impact as freshmen last year, but a few guys, like in the 2020 group, there are a lot of defenders in 2021 who could have a breakout season this fall. Guys like Xavier Sori, Smal Munden, Nyland Green on offense, Amarius Mims, Kamari Lasser is a guy who saw a little bit of time, Jamon Dumas-Johnson, Chaz Chambliss. So we're seeing a lot of those defenders, especially from the 2021 class, play, a little bit, sometimes, a couple of those guys more than a little bit last year. So I think that 2021 group is going to turn out to be very good, and we're going to see a lot of NFL draft picks in that class. But again, who knows in 2022, that's another outstanding group. They haven't hit the field yet, so it's tough to, see what they're going to become. But at the end of the day, you can judge these classes on their production at the college level in Athens and how they did in the NFL. And I think the 2018 group has solidified, themselves as the best recruiting class that Kirby Smart has brought in. Again, they're all outstanding, but the 2018 group, I think, has to win, even with all those transfers. But guys like Azeez Ojulari was towards the bottom, lower ranked of those guys. He's turned out to had a hell of a career at Georgia. Should have been a first-round pick. I think Tyson Campbell should have been a first-round pick as well. That would have given him 5, but again, just 3. And those guys were due to stay all 4 years. But it's an outstanding group. If you have 12 NFL picks in one class, you're going to win titles. You're going to compete for titles, and that's what Georgia has been doing. And if you string them along year after year after year, that's how you build a machine, right? A wannabe dynasty, right? We don't know if Georgia's not going away anytime soon. They're going to continue to run the East, in my opinion, and compete for championships. I definitely don't think that Kirby Smart has won his only championship at Georgia. I think more are on the way. Maybe not next year, but maybe in 2 years, maybe in 3 years, if he keeps recruiting at this level and occasionally signs a class like he did in 2018 with 3 first-round picks, 12 more, in that class, then yes, Georgia's going to probably bring in multiple trophies in the near future. Again, it's not going to be 40 years before Georgia wins another one. So As good as the 2017 class was at the time, 2018 is better. 2019 has a chance to solidify themselves if Nolan Smith can become a first-round pick, and more of those guys kind of emerge, because that 2020 class is going to be right there too. So not a lot of weaknesses overall for any of them, but when we're talking best recruiting class that Kirby has brought in, it was the #1 ranked consensus class in 2018, kind of by a mile. So is he ever going to sign a class like that? I think so. I don't know when yet. It could be the 23 class. 24 is absolutely loaded across the country and in the state. Maybe that's the class. You tell me, right? What do you think? Yeah, thanks for watching the video. As always, guys, really appreciate it. For the latest on Georgia football team and recruiting news, make sure you head over to DawgPost and continue watching these videos. We really appreciate it, and I will see you over on DawgPost.